Up? It's Jay Hood. Make sure that you subscribe to our podcast for Good Karma Wrestling and, of course, the Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. Thanks so much for joining me with this breaking news regarding the WWE and their involvement with ESPN. This deal, by the way, will pay WWE an average of $325 million per year. According to the Wall Street Journal, that is a 1.6x increase over the $200 million that NBC Universal had been paying going back to 2021. That is just crazy, but yet a great story for professional wrestling and for the WWE that they are involved, WWE and ESPN. I want you to think about this. Now you're talking about Netflix and ESPN, direct to consumer, and YouTube, and also CW and the USA Network and Tubi. There's just so much, but it's a great deal for the WWE. $325 million per year. There could be times where SportsCenter is going to emanate from Survivor Series or SummerSlam or WrestleMania. And the other thing is that don't put it past ESPN and WWE to have some kind of live event right there on the main ESPN or ESPN Plus. Special guest sports editor from Barrett Sports Media, my friend John Mamola is with us. Go to barrettmedia.com to read Rock's columns, and he joins me right here on this special Under the Hood. Rock, as always, appreciate the time. Thanks for coming on.
So, Jay, how are you doing?
You know how I'm doing. I'm overjoyed that wrestling's come to ESPN. Do you know when I was a small child, and that's already a lie, me saying I was a small child, but the idea that there was wrestling on ESPN, it was the AWA. It was Vern Gagne's AWA. There was at the end, but ESPN had to fill programming during the daytime, and there was wrestling on during that time. Now, look at what's happened. I'm sure Vern Gagne in heaven somewhere is like, hey, where's my $325 million a year to be able to have my wrestling on the ESPN platform? What was your initial reaction when you found out about this deal?
The initial reaction to me, it made a lot of sense. I mean, if you're going to be WWE and you want to play in the land of the big boys, because, again, they're trying to attract an audience that gets in the argument with Major League Baseball, the NBA, NHL, NFL. They want to play in that same arena. And going to ESPN makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, the Peacock deal, I mean, look, it was good for the time. I mean, because, again, it was coming out of COVID. Everyone was looking for content. It just made the most sense at the time, especially with Peacock just launching right around COVID. But now, I mean, since Nick Khan and Triple H are kind of tag team in this, to use a wrestling term, it just seems like business has been bigger than ever expected. So you want to go to the top tier platforms, and that's what Disney and ESPN provide for the WWE moving forward starting next year.
Rock, you have Netflix, it's ESPN direct to consumer, it's CW, it's USA Network, it's YouTube, it's even Tubi if you're interested in trying to find out what's happening there with Evolve. So we talk about this in baseball all the time, about the difficulty of being able to find your game wherever your game is. And eventually, we can find it. I wonder how this feels for the WWE fan to know that their programming, their wrestling is just everywhere, scattered.
I mean, it's a good question. I mean, it is a challenge for all of these entities to kind of, figure out how to bring the whole audience with you because again, you're asking a lot of your audience. Now, moving to ESPN, okay, Peacock is moving away, but the price goes up now. It goes up $14 a month. Mm-hmm. And in the times we currently live in, I mean, $14, I mean, while it may seem small, just kind of me and you talking, at the end of the day, that's still double of what I was paying before with Peacock. So it is a challenge that really everybody is kind of facing right now of the four major sports, and the WWE is no different now. But I do think there's an advantage to it as well. The whole point of going on NBC and reviving Saturday night's main event is to reach out to that traditional cable, regular television audience and saying, hey, look at this grand, spectacular product that we're giving to you for free for 2 hours on a Saturday night every couple of months. There's a ton of commercials that go along with it. But at the same time, we're going to give you a product to where maybe we can hook you in, where maybe you do check out a WWE product on Netflix. Maybe you subscribe, already to Netflix. And you just didn't know that, Monday Night Raw was on the platform, and you can kind of invest a little bit in that. I think diversifying by going to the different networks is smart because you're playing to a lot of different avenues, because not everybody has that one lane that we go to. But at the same time, I can understand the difficulty of it, but at this, again, the younger generation just doesn't care. Whereas the older generation, we just want to flip channels like we always used to do
Yes.
back in the day, right?
Yeah.
But now, and believe me, I'm the same way. I hate going from Netflix watching Raw to check out what the Rays are doing down here in Tampa on FanDuel Sportsnet, which is on my Spectrum app, and then switching over to Peacock to see what my girl wants to watch. That kind of thing. I get it. But at the same time, these entities are in the business of making money and finding as much reach as possible.
So, Rock, I'll let you in on the conversation I had with my partner David Kaplan on Cap and J Hood on ESPN Chicago. I brought this up, and this relates to ESPN's direct-to-consumer with their deal with the National Football League, right? Mm-hmm. I said to Cap, I said, so I, as much as we love the idea that the NFL is everywhere, I never thought that I would live to see the day that the NFL is on every network, on several streaming platforms. Cool, great. But now that ESPN and the NFL are in bed with one another, and the NFL has a piece of ESPN, 10%, where does the journalism stand with this? Where, if there is something that is major in the NFL, a major story that could be against one of the owners, maybe a popular player, where does journalism stand when it comes to that? And along with those same lines, now that ESPN has aligned themselves with the WWE, the McMahon scandal is still there. The Janelle Grant lawsuit is still there. Mm-hmm. Can ESPN and SportsCenter be able to dig in like they've done in the past on stories of that ilk, knowing that there's a partnership there?
I think ESPN kind of showed their skin with the most recent NFLPA story that came out from Pablo Torre and Mike Florio, where basically the NFLPA and the NFL were colluding with each other without actually colluding with each other. But again, ESPN was nowhere to be found in that. A lot of entities that have partnerships with the NFL, CBS, NBC, nowhere to be found, even though Mike Florio working for Pro Football Talk does have that, alignment with NBC. I think that's the biggest question in all this, and that's why Bob Iger had to say on the call today about talking about that potential conflict of interest that might arise. Because, look, the NFL is investing in a journalism company, sort of, that covers sports. But since Jimmy Pitaro's come into charge with ESPN, they're playing in the entertainment lane. People want to be entertained. I think, and I actually read about this tomorrow on BarrettMedia.com. It's getting to the point now where I think people are just over-consumed and over-stimulized with so many different things that when they just come home, they just want to be entertained. They don't really necessarily care, like me and you may care, about the inner workings of the WWE, the behind the scenes of the NFL. I think they're just playing in the lane of trusting that the consumer doesn't care. And if you're an Adam Schefter, if you're a Shams Charania, if you're anyone that covers the league on a day-to-day basis that is being leaned on for that kind of coverage, I think you kind of have to look over your shoulder a little bit, because at the same time, you don't want a scandal to pop up and then have to badmouth or cover or just be overall straightforward in your line of thinking about that story. And yeah, that's going to come up at some point. And maybe this is why ESPN is kind of playing into these licensing deals with guys like Pat McAfee, maybe playing with guys like Rich Eisen, who have these deals outside of the actual contracts with ESPN, where maybe you have a little levity to kind of have that, even though it's still on the network, but it's not our guys saying it. So maybe that's kind of the thinking there. But I agree with you. It definitely has to be called out. It definitely has to be questioned. And we're going to come. I mean, the whole NFL deal, just so everyone understands, it has to be approved by the government. It's not going to happen until probably sometime next year. So in the meantime, I think for our standards, just kind of looking at how the NFL is covered by ESPN, it's going to be a very, very interesting experiment moving into the season.
There won't be a Jeremy Schaap or a Bob Lee, ducking from underneath the desk and popping up with the journalism.
Not a chance.
So that's a column in itself. Another column, I think, for the future is like, what could radio learn from cable TV? Because all we've been talking about, you and I, so far is Netflix and direct-to-consumer ESPN, and even what's happening with All Elite Wrestling as far as their deal with Warner Media. So it just seems like so many are not necessarily fleeing cable, because SmackDown's still a thing, AEW still depends on cable, but Rock, I mean, everything's towards streaming right now. I'm just wondering, the business that I'm in radio, what they could learn from what's happening with cable TV as of late.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because Netflix is now playing into the podcasting realm. I mean, they're positioning themselves to be a competitor for YouTube, who has absolutely dominated the podcasting realm with video podcasting. There's all sorts of research. I'm sure you see it too, talking about how people are gravitating away from the audio version of podcasting into the video version of podcasting. Because again, I mean, we're on a video medium right now. There's a lot of people that go to work, they pop up YouTube, whether it's music or maybe their favorite television show or now a podcast, right? What can radio learn from this? I mean, I think the one thing it's going to have to take is investment. I just don't know if these companies that own radio stations, I mean, I know you work for Good Karma. I used to
Mhm.
work for Odyssey and iHeart Media. I just don't know if there's the level of investment to kind of find a distributor. Like, look, you have the iHeart Radio app, just to use my former company
Mhm.
as an example. But I mean, you can find anything there. You can find Odyssey stations there. You can find iHeart stations there. You can find podcasts. I mean, it's the number one podcast. I saw all the press releases. Number one podcasts are out there, right? But at the same time, people are
Yeah.
just consuming things differently now. Will these same radio companies invest in a YouTube platform for each individual station, for each individual show, a Twitch platform? Will they invest in short form video? That's probably not likely to be a lane that they play in, just because they only know one space. And traditional radio has always played from behind when it comes to the digital on-demand audience. So I don't think this is necessarily going to be a new happening for the radio industry, but at the same time, it does kind of show you where the audience is going. And if you don't catch up now, which is what Disney and NBC are doing, maybe you're going to be playing from behind in the radio space.
Rock, lastly, and I appreciate your time. And I've been reading a lot of different articles regarding this deal with ESPN and WWE, so I'm not 100% clear yet as far as the PLE is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Some are saying that it's all encompassing the $30 if you already have cable, that you're good as far as the $30. But I just wonder about the PLEs, because if you're WWE, you want to catch up or come as close to UFC as possible. It's amazing how much UFC is charging for a product that's not hot. It just isn't. I think the difference between wrestling and the UFC is that UFC's stars are behind bars, or they're going to come back to the cage, and they're not reliable. That's a real thing, right? With John Jones and Conor McGregor. But for WWE, I wonder how much that is going to be. Think about that family that's struggling, that want to watch WWE, and they got to pick and choose. Is it Netflix this month, or is it PLE this much? I wonder how much that is going to be. I think if you're WWE, you could charge whatever you'd like because the product's hot right now, unlike the UFC.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Now, UFC's media rights are coming up as well. And if this has been any indication of where the UFC may land as well, I mean, they're owned by the same company, TKO Holdings. So, I mean, there's a very good chance that the announcement today is kind of a precursor for what may come from the UFC and ESPN. Now, getting to your point about, just cost of purchase and that decision that people have to make. The thing that I'm curious about, and look, what ESPN has said so far, because they don't want people cutting the cord just for them right now. ESPN still gets a lot of money from cable and satellite providers to carry their product. So that's why they're branching out with this new DTC product, which launches in 2 weeks, to those cable and satellite provider, customers already, because yes, we want to give you that product because eventually we would like you to come over once you do decide to cut the cord, because that's not going to be stopping anytime soon. So in theory, my biggest question is, you're starting at $29.99 a month right now. It's an introductory price. This is with the WWE apparently starting in 2026 once their agreement with Peacock goes away. What about after the 12 months? How much higher does it go? Because you're not just talking about WWE. You're talking about potentially the NFL. You're definitely talking about the NBA. More than likely, they'll find some sort of agreement with Major League Baseball, because they do have to fill content throughout the entire summer. So baseball makes a lot of sense. And you already have the agreement with the NHL on top of college football. You have the whole college football playoff, the national championship. So my question is, on its face right now, $30, all that content, and the WWE PLEs. Makes a lot of sense. It's only $14, but how much higher does it go? Let's just say you lump in the UFC.
Yeah.
into that as well. That's the real question about this. This is absolutely ESPN's number one objective. They want to see how many people that they can take, not necessarily away from cable because they still get money, but at the same time provide an outlet just to get all that content. But the WWE announced today was like the biggest selling point to get people to come to the ESPN DTC, because right now they don't have really anything to offer outside of what they already have. This was the new element to get people excited to sign up for that DTC. If it goes up above 35, maybe $40, $50 a month, then we're going to really see if people are really buying into this concept.
$325 million per year, according to the Wall Street Journal and CNBC, for the WWE. John Mamola, as always, I appreciate your time. This breaking news story, we had to talk about it because wrestling is as hot as it's been since the 90s. And so now there's a lot of money that's doled out for this, and it's pretty dope. I'll tell you that right now for everybody across the board.
Yep, business is good. Brock Lesnar's back. That's why.
I think so. All right, man. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you, Jay.
Don't forget to check out all of our SummerSlam coverage. We had it all right there. It's on YouTube as well as wherever you get your podcasts for SummerSlam and so much more. Thanks so much for checking us out. WWE and ESPN.